The dead man has been waiting for you since yesterday. So has the bread. It sits on a wooden plate beside his body. A cup of ale waits beside it. Around the room nobody speaks. The widow won't look at you. Her children definitely will. You remove your hat, sit beside the corpse, and eat. Not because you're hungry, because someone in this room believes, or at least fears, that something may need carrying away from the dead. And apparently, you're the delivery service. You weren't born a sin-eater. Nobody looks at a newborn baby and thinks, excellent, he'll eat beside corpses someday. You grow up poor in a rural community near the Welsh border, far from London's factories and crowded streets. Your world is fields, stone cottages, mud that somehow survives every season, church on Sundays, work on almost every other day. Your father labors wherever someone will pay him. So do you once you're old enough? By 15, you've learned an important lesson about poverty. Almost every unpleasant job becomes acceptable when dinner depends on it. The first time you hear about a sin-eater, someone has died in a neighboring village. You don't attend the funeral. You only hear the whispers afterward. A man came to the house. Food was placed near the corpse. He ate it. Received a few coins. Then left. Some say the food symbolically took on the dead person's sins, and by eating it, the man carried that burden away. Others dismiss the whole thing as superstition. The local clergyman certainly doesn't encourage it. You decide it's ridiculous. Then winter arrives. Work disappears. Your father becomes ill. And ridiculous things begin looking surprisingly reasonable when you're hungry. The knock comes after dark. A farmer you recognize stands outside. His mother died that afternoon. He looks uncomfortable even asking. The man who used to do it is gone. You already know what he means. You pretend you don't. He explains anyway. Bread. A few coins. You would only need to sit beside her, eat, and leave. You stare at him. Why me? His eyes drop toward your patched coat. That's answer enough. An hour later, you're standing outside the farmhouse. Through the window, you can see candles, neighbors, a body laid out inside. The farmer presses 2 coins into your palm. Nobody shakes your hand. Nobody welcomes you. But when the door opens, everyone moves aside. You haven't eaten anything yet. And somehow, they're already looking at you differently. Inside, the dead woman looks smaller than you remember. You've seen her alive. Once at the market, once arguing over the price of onions. Now she lies beneath a clean sheet while candles burn around her. Someone places a piece of bread near her chest. The room becomes very quiet. You suddenly wish the farmer had explained this job better. There is no grand ceremony, no mysterious chanting, no secret book, just local custom fear grief, and several people waiting for you to do something they would rather not do themselves. The farmer tells you what he remembers the other man saying. You repeat the words awkwardly. Then you take the bread. For a moment, nobody moves. You eat. It tastes like ordinary bread. This is almost disappointing. You drink the ale. Still ordinary. No thunder. No sudden darkness. No sensation of another person's sins entering your body. Mostly, you feel uncomfortable because 12 people are watching you chew. When you finish, the farmer gives you the remaining coins. His wife opens the door. That's when you understand the other half of the arrangement. They needed you inside. Now they want you outside. Quickly. Nobody offers you supper. Nobody asks you to stay for the burial. The farmer barely meets your eyes. Yesterday you were simply another poor laborer. Tonight, you've become associated with something people fear. You walk home telling yourself it doesn't matter. Coins are coins. Your stomach is full. Your family can buy food. Not exactly a terrible evening. The problem arrives the following Sunday. You enter church. A woman who normally sits near your family moves farther down the bench. Another avoids looking at you. Outside, 2 boys whisper, "That's him." You turn. They run. Even your father seems unsure what to say. Finally, he looks at the food you've bought with the money. Then at you. He eats. Poverty has always been excellent at simplifying moral arguments. By spring, people know where to find you. Not often. Only when someone dies, and when a family still believes the old custom matters enough to pay for it. You never become respectable, but you become useful. Then one evening, a well-dressed stranger arrives at your cottage. His boots are clean. His coat costs more than everything you own. He isn't from your village. A wealthy landowner has died several miles away. The family has specifically asked for a sin-eater, and for the first time, someone with money is asking you to carry away the sins of someone who had plenty of it. The stranger's carriage is waiting outside. You've never been collected for work before. Usually, you walk. By the time you arrive, your muddy boots have already made you nervous. The house isn't a palace, but compared with your cottage, it might as well be polished furniture, glass in every window, carpets thick enough to hide the floorboards. A servant takes your coat while looking uncertain whether he should touch it. You suddenly become very aware of the patch on your sleeve. The dead landowner lies in a large upstairs room. His family waits nearby. Not everyone looks pleased to see you. An older woman watches with obvious expectation. A younger man keeps glancing toward the door, embarrassed. Another relative quietly asks, "Is this really necessary?" Nobody answers. That seems to be why you're here. Perhaps some believe the old custom. Perhaps others don't. But death has arrived. And apparently nobody wants to discover too late that grandmother's superstition was correct. Food has been prepared. Better bread than you eat at home. Better ale too. You follow what you've been shown on previous occasions, nothing elaborate, nothing you would call official. You sit near the dead man. The room falls silent. You eat. Nobody gasps. Nothing changes. The landowner remains dead. The bread remains bread. You still don't know whether you've carried away anything except lunch. What you do notice is everyone watching. When the landowner was alive, you might have entered this house through the servant's door. Today, people wearing clothes worth months of your wages have been waiting for you. For several minutes. You're the most necessary person in the nicest room you've ever entered. Naturally, everyone becomes much more comfortable once you leave. The payment is generous, enough to make you wonder whether discomfort becomes more expensive when the carpets are better. But the journey home feels different. A servant at an inn recognizes you. Not your name, your work. You're the fellow from the border villages. You stop. What fellow? He lowers his voice. The one they call when someone dies. Two men nearby look over. One seems curious. The other makes a face and returns to his drink. The following Sunday, you notice the local clergyman watching you after service. He doesn't confront you. He simply asks whether the stories he's hearing are true. You give no answer. His expression tells you this conversation isn't finished. Walking home, you pass 3 laborers beside the road. One nods politely. Morning. Another whispers something after you've passed. You hear only the final words. The sin eater. You keep walking. At first you took the work because people knew you were poor. Now, people who don't even know your name know what you do with the dead. The clergyman waits 3 days before visiting. He comes in daylight. That feels deliberate. Your mother offers him a chair. He declines. Then he looks at you. I hear families have been paying you. You don't bother pretending otherwise. He isn't angry. If anything, he looks tired. He asks what you believe happens when you eat beside the dead. You hesitate. Nobody has ever asked that. Families ask whether you'll come. They ask what you'll charge. They don't ask whether you think any of it works. I don't know. The answer seems to surprise him. Forgiveness doesn't pass from one soul to another through a piece of bread, he says. Whatever people fear about death, he says, should not be settled through an old local superstition. You listen. Then you ask the obvious question. What should I tell them when they knock? He has no answer that pays for winter food. Neither of you says that aloud. Afterward, you consider stopping. For almost 2 weeks. You do. Then a widow from another parish arrives. Her husband died unexpectedly. Someone at an inn gave her directions to your cottage. She stands outside clutching a basket. I don't know if I believe it, she admits. You almost laugh. Neither do I. She looks relieved rather than offended. But my husband did. That's why she's here. Not certainty. Fear of being wrong. You go with her. Your reputation continues spreading along roads you rarely travel yourself. Reactions vary. Some families treat you carefully. Some barely speak to you. Others seem embarrassed by the whole arrangement but pay anyway. At markets, most people still ignore you. A few recognize you. One butcher even serves you normally. You appreciate him more than he will ever know. But slowly, ordinary work becomes harder to separate from the other kind. A farmer considering hiring you pauses when someone whispers in his ear. He hires another man. A week later, that same farmer comes to your cottage after dark. His brother has died. Now he needs you. You stare at him. He stares at his boots. Neither of you mentions the irony. By autumn, you've saved more money than you ever expected from the custom. But something else has changed. Walking through a neighboring village, you hear a child ask his mother, "Is that him?" She gently pulls the boy closer. Not terrified, just cautious. You continue toward the inn. Inside, a stranger moves his coat from the empty chair beside him. There are plenty of other seats. You choose one. For years, poverty decided which doors opened for you. Now something stranger does. People still want you when death enters their homes. They're simply becoming less certain they want you anywhere else. Years pass. You notice because the children who once whispered about you at the market stop being children. One of them becomes a blacksmith. Another marries. A third eventually knocks on your door after his father dies. He recognizes you. You recognize the frightened boy who once hid behind his mother. Neither of you mentions it. Your own hair has begun turning gray. Your knees complain in winter. Still, when families send for you, you go. But they send less often now. Not because people have stopped dying. That would have been impressive. Something else is changing. A farmer dies in a neighboring parish and you expect someone to come. Nobody does. Later you hear his son refuse the old custom. My grandmother believed in that sort of thing. That phrase stays with you. Believed. Past tense. Another family simply holds the funeral without you. Others still send word exactly as before. There is no clear moment when anything ends. Just fewer knocks. Longer gaps between them. Something people once feared enough to pay you for is slowly becoming something younger people remember hearing about. Even the clergyman has gone gray. You pass him outside church one morning. He nods. You nod back. Neither of you mentions sin eating. You've spent years disagreeing without ever becoming enemies. He still believes people should leave such customs behind. You still aren't entirely sure what you believe. Death has been surprisingly unhelpful at settling the argument. Then someone close to you dies. Your father. Quietly. In the same cottage where he once looked at the food you bought with your first payment and decided hunger mattered more than questions. Neighbors arrive. Someone closes the curtains. Food appears. People speak softly. You keep expecting someone to look towards you. Nobody does. For once, you're not the man called after a death. You're simply his son. And somehow, that is harder. At the burial, you stand among everyone else. No payment. No special place. No bread waiting beside the body for you. You realize you're relieved, then feel guilty for being relieved. That night you sit alone at the table. Your father's chair remains empty. You've spent years entering rooms exactly like this one. Families grieving. Food waiting. Questions nobody could prove had answers. You always left afterward. The dead stayed behind. Now you're old enough to understand that eventually, you'll be the one who stays. And an uncomfortable thought occurs to you. When other people died, their families sometimes came looking for you. But when the sin eater finally dies, who would anyone come looking for then? The answer never comes. Instead, you get older. The knocks at your door become rare. Months can pass without one. Then someone from an older family remembers the custom and sends for you. You still go. You eat the bread, drink what you're offered, accept a little money, walk home. But increasingly people speak about what you do as though it belongs to another time. One young man watches you leave his grandfather's house and asks, "Did people really believe in that?" You almost answer, then decide you don't know. Perhaps some did. Perhaps some were simply afraid not to. After all these years, you're still not certain yourself. Eventually your legs make long journeys difficult. You stop taking work beyond the nearby villages. Nobody replaces you. There is no apprentice waiting to inherit the job. No official title to pass down. This was never that kind of profession. It was a local custom unevenly remembered and poorly recorded, even while people still spoke about it. And in your little corner of the border country, it simply grows quieter. When your own final illness comes, there is nothing dramatic about it. You spend more time in bed. Neighbors bring food. The clergyman visits. So do people who have known you for years. Some once avoided sitting beside you. Age has made everyone less particular about chairs. One evening, someone leaves bread on the table. Ordinary bread. You look at it for a long time, then smile faintly at the coincidence. Nobody asks another sin eater to come. Perhaps nobody nearby remembers how. Perhaps nobody believes it matters anymore. You discover that you don't mind. For much of your life, people called you when death frightened them. They gave you food coins and a burden nobody could prove existed. History will never settle exactly what men like you believed or how widespread the old stories truly were. It barely remembered you at all. But in a handful of houses along the Welsh border, when families were frightened of what death might leave behind, you sat beside their dead. You ate, they watched, and somehow that made it easier for the living to say goodbye.